Welcome back. We are here from day 4 of CPAC 2022, Orlando, Florida. My name is Grace Saldana, and I'm joined by Dan Cox, who is running for Governor of Maryland. How are you doing?
Doing great. Thank you so much for the opportunity, Grace, and Right Side Broadcasting. It's an honor to be here. We're running to restore freedom in Maryland. You can go to coxforfreedom.com. It's a great honor to be out here and be endorsed by President Donald J. Trump.
Right. Yeah, you are the Trump-endorsed candidate in this race, which is like gold. So you are definitely going to clinch this nomination so easily, and your polling proves it.
That's right. Yeah, we're up in the polls. It's looking great. In fact, we were up in the polls, but when President Trump endorsed me, we jumped 4-1. So it's looking good, but we're not taking anything for granted. We have to win. Talked to the president. He said, Dan, just win.
Right.
And we're working hard at that because freedom matters. You know, when you look at what's happened the last 2 years, and our children have been forced masked for 8 hours a day in Maryland. And when that, comes home and you realize the stress that's put families through, you couple that with our high taxes in Maryland, you couple that with the fact that they tend to attack the thin blue line and they're flying in unvetted persons that entered our country illegally. That all combines to really give Marylanders a pause and a concern. And so that's why they're coming behind our campaign, because they know that we mean business to do something about that. We want to restore freedom. We want to restore law and order. We want to make sure that Maryland, once again, is the free state.
Absolutely. And the people of Maryland are not fooled by the politics the Democrats are trying to play there by lifting the mask mandates for children.
Absolutely not fooled. In fact, the number one point that they tend to make is, why didn't this happen 2 years ago? Why are you just now saying that it's wrong? What changed? And for the last 2 years, I've been fighting this and working hard with all the different actors and stakeholders, Moms for Freedom, Moms for America, Moms for Liberty. All the mama bears came out. And you know what? That's the picture of America. And it happened to actually make a difference. And so what we saw is last week a mask mandate lawsuit was filed. 2 days later, the Board of Education lifted it. And it just so happened that the Rhino establishment says, oh, well, we're now supportive of that. That's not the case, and we know that, and Marylanders are very well aware that that's not the case.
Right. It's safe to say you stand against all the mandates, vaccine mandates, mask
Absolutely.
mandates. Totally pro-freedom. That's fantastic.
Absolutely. We're going to end it on day one. Those illegal executive orders, they sought to take possession of our bodies. They sought to take possession of our businesses. And they also sought to even shut down our churches, if you can imagine. At a time when we needed more prayer, they took that away. That's going to end on day one of my administration.
Beautiful. And you mentioned something about a 5-point constitution.
That's right.
So tell us about that.
So the 5 points of freedom, restoring freedom, is a contract for Maryland to, number one, restore the Constitution, make sure that that applies individually. In other words, everyone has the right to go to church. Everyone has the right to make a living in their business. Everyone will no longer be forced to be masked or to disclose their medical status in order to have a job. No more jab for jobs. That ends on day one. Also, the CRT issue is a concern. Excuse me. We have a problem in Maryland where they're indoctrinating our children with Marxism and with this anti-Americanism. That's going to end because we have a great opportunity under our statute. 7-105 of the Education Article says very clearly that our flag has to be displayed. Our children need to stand in class and pledge allegiance. They have an opportunity to opt out if they'd like. But they also need to be taught our great constitutional freedoms and our American exceptionalism. I'm going to do that on day one in Maryland because that's the future of our freedom. If we don't capture the hearts and minds of our kids, we don't have a state, we don't have a country.
Absolutely, and this all started really under President Trump, who pointed out the issue with leftist indoctrination in our schools.
Exactly.
And he worked to create legislation that would remove all of this indoctrination from our schools and instead implement knowledge about patriotism and about our country's founding and our historical figures that they are trying so hard to delete from history forever. They want to erase people like George Washington, people like Thomas Jefferson and Abraham Lincoln even. We saw that happen in your neck of the woods, not exactly your state, but over in Boston they wanted to take down the statue of Abraham Lincoln, and it was supposed to be a memorial to the day the Emancipation Proclamation, we're freeing the slaves, but nobody wants to remember those kinds of things anymore. And it is so important to, in order to maintain the heart of America, in the heart of our students to implement patriotic education.
Exactly, Grace. In fact, in Baltimore, they threw Christopher Columbus's statue into the harbor. And this revisionist history where they don't want to entrust us with the ability to teach our kids both the ways that we can improve and also the great things of our American history. Sure, we weren't necessarily perfect in every way, but no nation on earth has been. But what we have done is we have corrected our wrongs. And that's what freedom does. It provides the opportunity to speak into those things wherever there needs to be improvement.
Right.
And that's what's beautiful about America and about our state and about our country. And so we've got to return to that, and I'm excited to be working hard to do that. We're also going to make sure our seniors stay in Maryland by reducing their taxes. Maryland tends to be the worst tax state, in fact, the 50th worst for for your estate planning. So don't do estate planning in Maryland. We tax you 4 times when you die in Maryland.
Oh my gosh.
But also our senior tax. We've got to end the senior tax on the pensions and on the retirement income. And then obviously the auditing the vote, that's so essential. I think I touched on that. We've got to make sure our elections are secure.
Absolutely. And I think another thing we need to do is safety. Lower crime rates.
Yes.
Under Joe Biden, crime has been increasing exponentially,
Yes,
and especially in blue states in places like Maryland.
It has, and sadly, here in Maryland, we've been flying in unvetted aliens coming into Maryland. We caught 1,200 in Frederick County. It's just unbelievable because what they were caught for is MS-13 gang members. Mm-hmm. They had dismembered people in Montgomery County, Maryland. These are horrible people. They should have been vetted. We should make sure that our borders are secure. That reestablishes law and order. At the same time, they were trying to defund the police in my committee in the House Judiciary Committee. We stopped them from doing that, but unfortunately they still were trying to go after police families. Well, what family would want to apply to be a police officer in Maryland if they're going to be doxxed through a Public Information Act request? That's not possible. It's not something we should be permitting. We should make sure that their privacy and their information is protected. I did that in my committee. I made sure that the family was protected. Unfortunately, they're still going after the police in many other ways. But we're going to make sure that police are well funded, their salaries are doubled, and we're going to make sure there's an opportunity here and that their families feel safe here in Maryland. That way all of us can feel safe.
Well, I think myself and the people of Maryland are ready for you to keep those promises and get you elected to office. So how can people support your campaign and keep up with you?
Well, thank you. CoxForFreedom.com. They can go to CoxForFreedom.com. You can sign up to volunteer and join our campaign there. Thank you so much.
We need all the help we can get in the America First movement. Thank you so much for coming on.
Absolutely. My privilege.